Hey, my name is Ramirez, and this is going to be an episode of Matrix News. Matrix News, for those on the BitChute side and the Rumble side, is just me collecting a variety of different videos, news articles, and things that I've seen happen within the simulation. Hence why it's called Matrix News. To switch over, let's start off with some lady freaking the fuck out. Let's talk about mental health issues, psychosis, if you will. Why isn't it showing very? Okay, that's why. Okay.
Do you? I don't want to die today.
Where's your mask?
Honey. I don't. It's irrelevant. It's irrelevant.
I want whatever drugs
I'm
you're
not
on.
interested in going to the hospital and dying because of you. Back up. I'm done.
Can you please get what you're getting so I can finish
As
grocery
soon as
shopping?
you back up.
Right? We've already been 2 years into this. If it hasn't been abundantly clear to people that this whole thing was a profiteering, racketeering, power grab, land grab, whatever you want to call this. But yet there are still people. And how much you want to bet she's a graduate? How much you want to bet she went to college too? I really couldn't believe, like, even a staff member comes by and tells her, like, is there a problem with you letting anyone by or just go around you? And then she was like, yeah, but you interrupt my 6 feet. You can't. The science has changed, right? We already have videos of Fauci, videos of the lady with the scarf. We already have updates to everything. But yet, some people are still playing out the programming of, like, oh no, the news media still told me this and that. We got more flooding news too.
Everyone needs to know what is happening in Pakistan right now. The country is currently experiencing its worst flooding in their history. And just for perspective, 1/3 of the country is entirely underwater, which is an area of land equivalent to the size of the UK. A staggering 1 million homes have now been damaged or destroyed. Over 2,500 people have already been killed or injured. Almost half of the country's crops have been washed away. And over 700,000 of their livestock have died. Millions of people are now homeless. Schools and health facilities have been destroyed. And the scary part is that this is only the beginning for Pakistan, as 27 million people didn't have access to enough food before the floods washed away half their crops and killed their livestock. And on top of that, the WHO are now warning of huge outbreaks of infectious disease in the aftermath of the floods, which, if untreated, due to destroyed health facilities, could put millions in danger. WHO have now classified Pakistan's floods as an emergency of the highest level.
Okay, for those who I'm having troubles with this new UI on OBS. If you haven't updated it yet, don't update it. It just looks weird.
You guys remember a couple weeks ago, everybody was talking about the guide stones that were partially destroyed, and there were all these theories about who destroyed them and how they were destroyed. Well, they were partially destroyed, and there's only a couple people that were talking about the fact that one of the guide stones had a hole that was drilled into it, or the way they created the monument that talks about decreasing global population to 500 million.
And besides that, like, one thing that hasn't been mentioned is the Georgia Guidestones now are like this ultra rare landmark, right? If you didn't see them physically while they were there, like, you missed out, right? I kind of regret not going to the Georgia Guidestones to see them at least once now, because now you'll never be able to see them, let alone take a picture there.
Which would essentially be about a 93% reduction in total population. Well, one of the guide stones had a hole in it, and you could see Polaris 365 nights a year, weather permitting, long as
right? He's essentially, that's a stated fact that if you look through the hole, you can always see Polaris. Now, this is where a lot of people will get lost. Me personally, I don't take a fight in the stake. I do not care if it's globe or flat. I'm just merely showing you an interesting idea.
it wasn't cloudy. If the stars were out, you could look through this hole and you could see Polaris 365 nights a year. And meanwhile, the official narrative about what we live on and where we are in space is that we are chasing after the sun, rotating around it at 66,600 miles an hour while we're spinning, doing a corkscrew through the galaxy, chasing this ball of fire. So if we're rotating and we're doing a corkscrew around the sun, traveling through the galaxy, how is it possible that since the guide stones were put there, you can see Polaris 365 nights a year?
Yeah, that idea usually tends to scare people. Sorry, I got stuck in the idea of like, what was this video for again? Because it's black and white. I don't remember why I shared it. But the Polaris idea, or at least the Georgia Guidestones itself, served as a very interesting proof of something. What, to me, it proves that the narrative of space isn't entirely concrete. Like, there's a lot we're not being told about space. It's kind of the reason why I don't think we've gone back to the moon, is because clearly there's something up there they don't want us to know, that they've controlled the entire narrative around it. And the whole globe earth, flat earth thing, don't care. But I do find it interesting the way he explained it, right? There are all of these factors of motion that we as a solar system are doing, but yet you could still view this one star in the same location 365 days of the year. Kind of weird, don't you think? Here's this weird video though. So this dude, I don't know what he's doing, goes over there. Pay attention to the chair. Yeah, that's not even the best part, right? The chair leans back. My favorite part is when this dude walks back. It won't hurt me if I don't touch it.
Hun? Hun?
I've like no idea what to think of that either. His reaction was just impeccable. So breaking news, a Washington state judge just ruled that Facebook intentionally and repeatedly violated a state political ad disclosure law that had been in the books for over 50 years. Facebook wanted the law declared unconstitutional. The law is very constitutional, the judge said. Again, Facebook and all these corporations just tossing money towards this towards this rhetoric, towards this idea. Just the same way that the feds keep doing this dumb shit. It's like, yeah, dude, we're totally organic. We are totally for white fragility. By no means are we federal agents. Because you have to remember, right? In court, there's a precedent. So that means if this case will reflect any other previous case in history, it'll be an immediately closed case, shut scenario. And the FBI does that. The FBI teaches its agents that, right, if you got a cold hard case, just go for it, right? Keep pursuing it. But if you don't have anything, oh no, sorry, you just close that, right? This is a matter. Don't worry about this matter, right? They'll downgrade the issue. I don't know, I just think it's hilarious that that there's this whole perception that's trying to be created in the mainstream, not in the mainstream narrative, because these guys barely get any news attention. I don't know. I just see it as a honeypot. Like, how do you not see that this is all a setup? A setup to create two sides, a left and a right. So when both of you start fighting each other, guess what? You basically give the world, or at least America, over to China and Russia. So it's kind of like, think about this. You're just falling for another ideology that doesn't even actually work. But my utopia, it's real, I promise. Yeah. Say that to your king and your kings. Okay, for those who don't get this, they're German. They currently don't have gas. You get the point? Fucking hilarious. Alright, I made a video of this one already. Of James O'Keefe questioning the director of Trinity Schools. That was my previous video. And in that, I just found a very deep, dark rabbit hole of a lot of abuse cases in New York City. And I highlighted one school. I could not talk about any of the other stuff that I found because those people graduated. And the people that graduated went to very nice schools. And they went to very nice schools. They also got very nice jobs. And those sort of jobs and positions that these people are currently holding are of enough importance that I do not want to touch that with a 20-foot pole, let alone a 100-foot pole. But, you know, that's me. We have bank reportedly bans customers for questioning presence of rainbow flag on app. Right? Just even questioning the mere fact of this LGBTQ plus whatever agenda, immediately you are met with a ban. You are met with, nope, shut up. You're not allowed to talk about this. It's like, what the Pope dissolves Knights of Malta leadership, issues new constitution. Probably move this. I just realized this. Sorry guys, new show. Either way. Pope dissolves Knights of Malta leadership, issues new constitution. Vatican, September 3rd. Pope Francis on Saturday dissolved the leadership of the Knights of Malta, the global Catholic religious order and humanitarian group, and installed provisional government ahead of the election of a new Grand Master. And usually, you should check out who is assigned the role of Grand Masters, not just in Knights, because there's plenty of Knights. There's a couple round orders, but look into Freemason lodges. Historically, a Freemason lodge, when they have a Grand Master, they have to be royalty. They have to be of an old lineage. But By the way, I read that in a Nazi research book, so I'm based in red pill, all right, if you want to deny this. That's why I always thought white people were the funniest people, the wingnats, because it's like, you believe that you guys need a utopia of just yourselves, but you also believe that only the purest of the pure. You do realize that only applies to royalty, right? Like all the really crazy people who have been inbreeding, and like inbreeding causes, mental disorders. Like those are the people you want. Okay, cool. The change with the Pope issued is a decree after 5 years of often acrimonious debate within the order and between some of the top members of the Old Guard and the Vatican over a new constitution that some feared would weaken its sovereignty. Either way, here we have a broad daylight robbery. I don't know how this ended. Couldn't find any more information on this. But yeah, one car chasing the other car, and the guy who literally pops out. Dude, this isn't a movie. Dude pops out, has a gun in hand, and he tries breaking the glass.
Fuck.
He's got a gun. He's got a gun. He's got a gun.
Bruh. Takes a bag. No. I have no idea what that was all about, but in broad daylight in New York City, like none of the cops did anything? Like, what the fuck? I wonder if the cops even found these fools. Here we have Patriot Front training how to properly use their shields in self-defense.
Hey, don't let him in. You're staggering, guys. Cycle back. What are we doing? Cycle back, right. Alright, should we try that again from the top?
Yeah, dude, we're training ourselves for gladiator combat for when we go out and we protest the left. I don't know, that's the way I see it. It's just like, there's so much I could say about feds, honeypots, Discord, 4chan. I've seen it all. Like me personally, I've been approached once, and it was disguised as an offer of like, oh, we're looking for truth people, right? We're looking for people who do exactly what you do. And I looked at that fool and was like, nah, dog, you can miss me with that shit. But sadly, that was not the case for somebody else that was hanging out in the Discord. He actually met him in person. And then they started talking about like, oh, I'll show you yours if you show me mine. I'm just like, bruh, you literally set yourself up for this. But
Did y'all see this?
Listen, I think the American people aren't stupid. We know that the big corporate bureaucrats have infiltrated the media, the financial system, and the highest levels of government. Oh yeah, you bitch fucking
I like the other dude who just pops up. He's like, yeah, that's the truth. And that's straight up the truth. And people would want to think that this happened within the last 20 years, the last 30 years. I'm like, no. This happened in 1950. Like, straight up, this happened right after World War II. After the destruction of Stalin, whatever we want to call this. There were deliberate efforts that were taken into destroying the trust between people, religion, and their faith. Because in destruction of that connection between the religious ideals, or at least there is a disconnection between morality, is what I'm trying to suggest. Because you can clearly see that right after the 60s, morality in this country just declined steadily, completely. And by the 80s, it was completely gone. And at least for metropolitan areas. Of course, you still have your Rust Belt of America. You still have Utah with the Mormons, which has much bigger problems than you realize. Like they're not a standard of like morality. All right, I just want to make that clear. All right, those people have fucking huge problems. No offense to any Mormon, but like, I'm just saying, you got a lot of controversy on your side. Here we have Alan West. It's official. I have been invited to the Sovereign Military Order of the Temple of Jerusalem, Knights Templar. I took the oath to protect the Christians in the Holy Land. Any Catholic order, run the fuck away, dude. Just get away from Catholics, alright? You're like one step away from just setting the whole world on fire, right? Fuck the Pope. Fuck the Vatican. No. You guys have been in charge for way too long. I could pop up that video of, right, the only people, there was only a very few people who went after Hillary Clinton during the first hearing. I want to say 2018, December 7th. I can't remember the date, but there was a hearing against Hillary Clinton. Of course, one of the few people that showed up was Judicial Watch? I think that's what they're called, Judicial Watch, with that one buff dude. And then the other group of people that showed up were Jesuits. Like, straight up, they tell the clerk, yeah, we're Jesuits, and we're here to go after the Clinton Foundation. I'm like, oh wow, the only people who had the balls to actually go after her and her tax information were the Jesuits. Nobody else, besides Judicial Watch, of course. Either way, everyone else, government, pedos, lol, dude. Sweden will lend up to 250 billion kroner to the electricity companies to save them from technical bankruptcy. Finance Minister Damberg announces. Again, this all just ties into Europe's immense dependence on Russian oil. Oh, here we have Huma Abedin ties to the Muslim Brotherhood. We'll question the Muslim Brotherhood, but for sure we will not question anything related to Israel or anything related to European interest, European lobbyist groups. And the way I see it is, you know what I mean? Somebody shaping the world in their image. Somebody will allow the Brotherhood, that will allow Huma Abedin, right? Because this is the hill. They'll allow Huma Abedin. They'll allow the Muslim Brotherhood. They'll allow aspects of their organization to fall under the wayside because they know the citizens have a small goldfish memory. So they'll be like, all right, we'll give them this much, but right down the line, we're just going to switch it up on them and we're not going to give a fuck. And then in 5 years, they'll forget this whole thing was even an issue. Oh yeah, here's a really good video that I did not even know I shared.
Could Kanye be next? The hip-hop star's public outbursts were well documented, but the parallels between his situation and that of Britney and Lindsay Lohan are striking. Lou Taylor began business ties with his mother-in-law.
Lou Taylor.
Kris Jenner, come on in.
Do you have any further comments about Caitlyn Jenner?
We start this half hour with word that Kanye West is waking up in a Los Angeles hospital where he's now under observation, reportedly for exhaustion.
Yo, for anyone who remembers that outburst, that was GOAT material, dude. Him bursting out on that day was amazing.
And stress.
After what the media reported was a, quote, public meltdown in 2016, he was forced into a 5150 hold, a legal framework that allows others to step in and make decisions on their behalf. Sources close to Kanye have told this documentary they believed he had been drugged and set up, and that this 5150 hold was an attempt to get control of his kids and money.
Essentially, it's the system's way of maintaining hold over talent. Right? If contracts don't work, if the threat of them losing their money doesn't work, if all of these other systems that they have prior, right? Because they'll implement people right next to you to try to control you. To a large degree, you can assume that Kim K is also one of those type of people. They'll use these actors, these personas, to infiltrate the lives of other famous people, to influence, to tinge, to give suggestions, right? This is that's why I highlighted that other video where I really brought together aspects of the hip hop culture and the psychopathic culture, because it's not that they're psychopaths. I don't know what the word is for these sort of people that see value in social status, that they'll lie about themselves, they'll present a false image, and they'll do that whole buddy thing where they'll start rubbing shoulders, and they'll be like, what do you mean, man? You've known me for so long, man. Why don't you just do me this one favor, dude? And they'll try to give influences, suggestions, and they'll try to like manipulate your life slowly. And these are all tactics that are done with Hollywood actors, and talent. I quote unquote talent, but essentially people with money, influence, and or a backing.
Later in 2020, Kanye tweeted that, quote, Kim was sending doctors to 5150 him and lock him up. A frightening accusation.
Either way, this is pretty frightening. But I do want to show that video reaction of him losing, or quote unquote losing it. Yeah. Oh no. Oh no, they can see that I'm on. I should probably not show that. It's one of those URLs, and it's not the 4chan one, is pretty bad. Because you're not supposed to know that URL. Let's see. Oh, well, that was actually pretty easy to find. It's usually not easy to find this. But if you type in the right words, oh wait, wrong one, you can find it.
Only the originals. Only the originals. When they say that. Y'all don't want to lose again.
Right? Keep in mind, this was on 11/19/2016.
A lot of people here tonight felt like they lost. You know why? Because y'all been lied to. Google lied to you. Facebook lied to you.
And you call this a meltdown? You call this a psychiatric meltdown that required psychiatric help?
Radio lied to you. Radio fucked you. I know it's a lot of real niggas working at radio. Real people. Real program directors with wives and kids that love music.
But they can't play what they want because there's a contract over them. And this reminds me of recently, well, not recently, I want to say like 2 months ago, my mom was having a conversation with me about how her favorite radio host lost his job. And I got really curious about why did this really random little Mexican radio station lose its position? So I did a little looking into it, only to find out that it was George Soros and the Open Society Foundation that essentially bought out all of the radio stations that Univision had. Univision being a Mexican or a Spanish broadcasting station, bought out all the radio contracts and completely fired everybody, and is now replacing all of these different time slots with more friendly people who know what real democracy is trying to achieve, or at least that's the thing that I heard in Spanish.
They can't play what they want to play because they've been paid to play that bullshit over and over and over. And when I say that bullshit, what I'm saying is, we love Drake. Drake is great. He's a great artist. Shit is great too. But
oh,
who the greatest of
yeah.
all of
I was
us?
like, why did he bring up Drake? Because he pulls up the fact that like some artists fit in the same kind of genre, but one will get played on the radio while the other one won't. But either way, that was enough of this. Great video. I always like watching it because it's like it reminds me of where a lot of this started. A lot of people want to make their assumptions or make conclusions, but they won't fit the entirety. They won't fit the entirety of the timeline within their idea or their theory. They'll just essentially only go with one side of it. They won't quantify the importance of various actors all acting within the same goal mindset. But that's whatever's. Here we have raw. Oh yeah, the raw milk, dude. They're going after the Amish.
Yeah, because there's fraudulent evidence going around, and there could be some trouble.
Okay.
Personal prosecution or something. So it's up to you.
Okay. All right. So you'll let us in then?
Yeah, just do
Okay.
your thing.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
It's up to you.
How are you doing today, sir?
Mr. Payne, you're in my personal space. Would you please move back?
You get the real thing, just get the door to do it.
Do you have a door that's open?
I don't think so. I talked with my attorney, and he said, just let you do your thing.
Okay, but the warrant says that we inspect inside buildings.
So essentially what's going on is, I'm guessing they're working on behalf of the FDA or some organization, and they're trying to do an inspection on the raw milk production that the Amish currently have. And for those who don't know, the Amish, because they practice such old practices, they don't use GMO goods. They don't use GMO corn. They don't use GMO potatoes. A lot of their seeds and a lot of the traditions that they've carried have carried over to present day. So their cows are not vaccinated. They're not genetically modified the way that the FDA or Monsanto or all of these corporations would like them to be. And that doesn't even go, I can't even go into heritage seeds. Heritage seeds are essentially seeds from a time prior to Monsanto, from a time prior to the genetic modification of seeds, their lineages, and so on and so on. There's been a very silent war that people aren't aware of agriculturally here in the United States. And I guess because it's time now, you are seeing an active effort from government officials to not shut them down, but to start doing something, right? It always starts with a knock on the door, but it'll always end with the destruction of something.
Yeah, you're free to do that. I mean, it's up to you.
So you need to open the building so we can look.
Can you show me where that's authorized to do?
It basically says that we petition the court for this festival inspection warrant to inspect the premises, which include the processing packaged or stored for sale.
Okay.
So that's inside this building.
Okay.
So can you please let us in?
I don't see where it says that I have to open the door. I mean, if you can show me, I'm willing to do it. I mean.
Okay. So if I understand correctly, you're not going to unlock the door for me to go in and serve the order.
That's what my attorney advised me to do.
Okay.
Dude, shout out to that attorney, Doug. Straight up. Now, with uncertain times, right? This is why I posted this next article. In uncertain times, Americans stick with fast food. I picked this article because of a funny ass story that I had where I went to 7-Eleven, and the 7-Eleven that I went to is right next to a McDonald's. That McDonald's is the only McDonald's in that whole area. I mean, literally, like Southgate. All of Southgate, that's the closest McDonald's to that specific area. I literally had to wait 20 minutes to exit out of the driveway of 7-Eleven because the drive-through line of that McDonald's exited out the street. You hearing me? Right? That long-ass driveway that they have specifically for drive-through, it went out the parking lot onto the street, and it was so bad that the bus had to park even further behind its actual stop because of how many cars were lined up waiting to go into McDonald's. And the drive exit out of that 7-Eleven is like I couldn't leave. Literally, there were that many cars. Like can't remember the number, but it was just ridiculous to me. And somebody brought it up to me, and it was just like, well, it's because it's cheap. And a lot of people are currently depending on a lot of fast food at this time because, you know what I mean? Not everybody has the luxury. Saudis using This is funny. Saudi using snitching apps sold by Google to identify dissidents. I have no idea. It's just like, yeah, dude, let's just, right? For those who don't know, I should actually mention that, because to me, this is public knowledge. Where when you download an app, when you download any application off the Google Store or the Apple Store, there are permissions that are required in order for some of these apps to work. Well, in sometimes you granting certain permissions to these companies, it's kind of like accepting one of those long term of agreements. Because essentially you could give them access to your photos, your voice, your camera, a variety of different options. That's why the newest thing now is allow permissions only when the app is being used or something like that. But the Android platform and the Apple platform are not. I say this, but they're all still spying on you, so it doesn't really matter. Animal rebellion activists stop milk supply in parts of England. This all goes back to who's organizing these people. These are environmentalists. Who is organizing them actively and allowing them? Who gave them the truck? Who gave them the money for these signs or any of this? And who is telling them the logistics side of things of this is where the trucks are, this is where the factory is, this is a good time for you to go do this or to go do that. There are levels of organization that are required that I don't think college students are smart enough to figure out, right? Like they actively need a leader or somebody with the wherewithal to organize this whole thing. Because it wasn't just, it's the reason why I say this specifically for this article is because it's in England. We've already seen plenty of times where they've organized themselves to attack petrol stations, to destroy them, right? So it's something is currently going on in the UK, at least to some meaningful degree, that it's organizing all of these young people to do all this in order to disrupt not just the supply chains in this case, but disrupt fuel pumps, which, further exacerbates the problem of gasoline. Yeah. For those who don't know, shoes are a problem.
I grew up around Native American people. I remember coming home one day and we were going to go into one of the kids' teepees with his parents, and the mother said, "Take those shoes off, they'll make you sick." The synthetic sole shoe. This is the most destructive invention that man ever made.
America makes synthetic rubber.
In 1960, we invented synthetic materials. First thing we did was we put synthetic soles on the shoes.
Come on, boys and girls, and follow me. I'm Swifty Flyer. I just can't be beat in my PF Flyers, the shoes that winners choose.
A big event happened. I call it the Nike generation, the Adidas generation, the tennis shoe.
Yeah, I guess a good thing to look at is flat shoes. I don't know what they're called. Like I have a pair wearing on them. I have a pair that I'm wearing right now, but because I have so when I was doing research in how to fix my my spinal problem, I discovered barefoot shoes. Barefoot shoes and a lot of like limbic support systems. Essentially I figured out that tennis shoes were completely terrible for you because of the way that it doesn't naturally support the foot. And it ended with me, this was so long ago that I don't even remember now. It ended with me looking into barefoot shoes, me into understanding why the front portion of the sole needed more space to work with. A variety of different issues, but let's just keep playing those.
Shoes generation. We started wearing sneakers. "95% of people walk insulated on the earth."
So it's the most common sense thing that we are organisms that live and grow and depend entirely on the earth.
Now I remember there was a Harvard study. Harvard and Stanford did studies on their cross-country teams. And essentially one of them discovered that the students performed better when they were running barefoot. And because of that, it led to, I think it was either Adidas or Nike, to develop a front, like the front portion toes of all shoes became flexible from that point on, because they figured, essentially they did a bunch of research and they were like, okay, we can get the benefits of a barefoot shoe, but we can also keep selling our fake shoe. So let's sell this shoe. I remember that, but that was, I can't remember the year.
While we're alive. And yet we have completely isolated ourselves from it. We're so disconnected that it becomes this weird thing if we actually slip our shoes off.
This was the single thing that happened that probably caused the proliferation of inflammation-related health disorders far and above anything else. You don't have arthritis, you don't have cancer, you don't have all these health disorders.
I don't know about that. I just know that wearing... It's much healthier for you to wear a barefoot shoe for aspects of the toes. That I do remember. You get better grip, you get a better running posture, and you develop better running habits, which will essentially, like, you'll notice these side effects if you run barefoot, right? You run at a longer distance. Your feet won't hurt as much because of the way that you brace for impact. Because with soles, you'll brace, you'll hit the back heel harder every single time. While when you run barefoot, or at least you develop that natural habit of running barefoot, you always land on the front portion of your foot while you're running. So the heel never really slams on the floor, not causing lower back issues. At least that's what I remember. I've never heard of this inflammation being connected to earth, being grounded, but I have heard that from a lot of spiritual people. Here we have Beth Bad & Beyond's. Beth Bad & Beyond's CFO identified as man who leapt to death from the Tribeca skyscraper. We're seeing a lot of very interesting rich people just fly out the windows, apparently. I don't know why. Ivermectin reduces COVID death risk by 92%, peer-reviewed study finds. You mean the horse paste? Whoa, man. Whoa, man. I'd rather you just stay 6 feet away from me, man. Okay, so this is a quote from George Orwell. As I write, highly civilized human beings are flying overhead trying to off me, Epstein me. They do not feel any enmity against me as an individual, nor I against them. They are only doing their duty. As the saying goes, most of them, I have no doubt, are kind-hearted, law-abiding men who would never dream of committing murder in private life. On the other hand, if one of them succeeds in blowing me to pieces with a well-placed thing, he will never sleep any worse for it. He is serving his country, which has the power to absolve him from evil. Right? Because essentially, the agents or the people that are employed to do these things from a legal perspective, FBI, DOJ, police department, they think they're doing a greater service to all of humanity by addressing the problems or the individuals that have been identified as problematic towards society. And in reality, it's just they're just being tricked by their superiors. I don't know. Like, there's just so many instances of this. Like, I will always point to COINTELPRO in the sense that the agents themselves thought they were doing good because they thought they were fighting communism. In reality, they were just maintaining the status quo for the people that did not want to give certain political power to certain groups of people, because they wanted to maintain, I don't know. It's a very weird thing for me to say this now, because I watched a great interview from like 1955 from some guy who wrote a book or something, but he was talking about how, can't even remember all that well, but it was essentially nobody robbed you of power. Nobody stole anything from you. Yes, your ancestors were taken from their land and their culture was taken from them, but that was them. You're a new person. This is a new generation. Nobody has taken anything from you right now. And it was trying to describe agency. and how we still have the agency to act accordingly in our own lives. But yet there are a lot of people who tend to have this belief that they have no agency, that they have no power, that essentially the white man has essentially controlled every single aspect of their lives, and people will live in that self-fulfilling prophecy. Very difficult thing to explain. Okay, so here we have, what is this? Undercover police agitators known locally as males chased out of the people's protest against permanent change of laws and in support of farmers in Amsterdam. Right? This whole COINTELPRO stuff of inserting people to try to like maintain the movement is not new. This is a tried and true tactic that has been used as far back as Italy. That's why I always bring up Nicholas Machiavelli, because in his book he literally brings that up. How some of these families that were trying to take over certain regions would bring over some of their supporters, some of their citizens, or some of their vassals. They would bring over their vassals to then implement them into the crowd for them to sway public opinion one way or the other. Crazy though. Crazy that it's happening in Amsterdam. But you know. Schoolgirl found alive 8 years after notorious kidnapping case. I think a lot of people are about to find out that a lot of people are going to get found out, in the sense that people who have disappeared, kidnapping cases, or mysterious vanishing cases, we might see a lot more of them just spring up out of nowhere. Americans are brainwashed into ignorance. Let's see what this article says, because I do not remember why I shared it. Right, wrong one. This button. When liberals have been so successful that schools are dedicated to erasing history instead of teaching it. For example, South Orange, New Jersey has ridded itself of association with Thomas Jefferson by referring him as Jefferson Elementary. Oh, wow. Wow, that surprises me. Delia Bolton Elementary School, in honor of the first black woman from the area to graduate from high school. According to the school, both the students and faculty led the fight to disassociate from Thomas Jefferson. Right, just erasing history. And you know, this reminds me of what was it? The federal project. It was 1925 when they started dating all of the buildings. They started actively rewriting, like, oh, this building was built this year. This building was built this year. Like, one of my favorite is, I just recently learned about it. It's like this really giant hotel. It looks like a castle. And the official story is it was built in a year. And if any landscaper looks at that area, they would look at the person who said, wait, telling me you built all this in a year? Because from a foundational perspective and from where it's built, it's like it makes absolutely no sense how they would have gotten all of that material there that quickly for all of this to finish in a single year. But you know, rewriting history, changing the course of what we perceive to be historically and factually correct, right? Because now you're going to have a bunch of the newer generation of kids who goes to that school is not going to recognize the fact that that was a Thomas Jefferson school. So, like, for example, St. Paul's, right? One generation of parents got to see a very strict version of St. Paul's school, but then the next generation, their kids got to see a very different side of St. Paul's. And they were basically MK Ultra'd into doing psychedelics, into allowing themselves to be free and explore their characters. Just very funny. But, you know, that article doesn't really... It explains... I think that's more of erasing history than it is brainwashing them into ignorance. The American kleptocracy, a government of liars, thieves, and lawbreakers. I don't think I need to read that article for people to be like, I don't know what you mean.
School will never teach you this. Humanity's deepest secrets lie beneath the ice. The elites know this, and why they kept hidden. Isn't it strange how 52 nations came together to enforce travel restrictions on Antarctica when we can't agree on anything? Admiral Richard E. Byrd led Operation High Jump, a 4,000-man military expedition to Antarctica. His diary mentions an entrance to a different...
Well, he also doesn't mention that in Operation High Jump, they returned as if they got defeated. Like, they didn't return with the same amount of things that they went over there with. But either way, mystery virus. Authorities scramble to find the cause. Oh yeah, this was the Argentina mystery case. I did follow up with this, and they found out that it was like some aggressive form of pneumonia or something like that, and that they're going to take measures to handle all this down. And keep in mind, I personally believe that Hitler escaped to Argentina, which is why I think it's a very controlled example state. Historically, not much has happened in Argentina. There's a reason for it. And if you look at some of the local things that were done with giving certain areas the ability to do whatever human experiments they wanted, is proof enough to be like, why? How'd you do this? And why do you have Nazi gold? Can you explain this, please?
Okay, I'm at the grocery store. I love that they have this ready. Lies and betrayal, furious, Trump to, Ivanka in tears. But we're not ready to talk about Joe showering with his daughter. That's okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Be blessed.
Don't you just love it? How like even somebody from the LGBTQ community could be like, you know, he'll point out the obvious of like, the magazine will love to talk about this, but we're not ready to have a conversation about how Biden abused his daughters. Oh man, it's great stuff. We also got some other great stuff.
Dad.
We're from China. We love President Trump.
You love Trump?
Because he loves America and he loves the freedom.
That's awesome.
We escaped from China because we want the freedom. We want the President Trump.
Yeah.
Oh, what was that meme? Did I even save it? Oh, I don't even know if I should show it. I'm pretty sure I saved it. It was a meme of like, me and my family used to share. It's basically showing a dad who lived in a very poor country, and he basically puts the caption of, I used to share one egg with 4 of my brothers. And then it shows his daughter in the background, but she tells me she won't eat until she gets McDonald's. I was like, oh, oof. To show you how like America just completely changes. All it takes is one generation, right? You have one generation of parents that suffered the most. They got to see some really hard times, and they have good ethics built into them, right? But the moment the next generation comes out, all that goes out the window. They're just trash kids. Look, a private jet flying from the city of Juarez in southern Spain, and that was supposed to land in Germany, stopped responding to calls from air control, headed to the Baltic Sea, then to Latvia. It crashed, where it was shot down, off the coast of Latvia after NATO fighters based in Estonia were raised to intercept it. I was about to read something completely different. Las Vegas investigative reporter Jeff German stabbed to blank outside of his home. Very interesting. Very interesting news. Former Albany bishop says he returned priest accused of abuse to ministry without involving law enforcement. I just wanted to tie this in with the St. Paul's video that I did, because to a large degree, people do not want, like, I quantify all portions of things that happen in the timeline, right? And when I quantify what happened in the 50s, 60s, 70s in America, a lot of it had to do with the lack of faith, the lack of trust that they had within the diocese, within a lot of these churches. Because, right, I just found one instance of a private school. I fail to quantify how I could even look for all of that information across America. Because it wasn't just a very insulated case where it only happened in New York, or it only happened in Chicago, or it only happened in Denver, right? This happened across the board. So I want to ask the question of who allowed these priests to come here first in the first place? What were their names? Who were they? And why the effort? Why so much effort for the church not to allow them to face charges? I don't know. I always found it very weird. Oh, here we have a very funny video. Well, not funny, but...
ישו היה פה בארץ הזאת. דיבר עברית.
Jesus was here in this land. He spoke Hebrew. Pope Francis, Aramaic. Right, this is why I always bring up the whole thing of like, these people are just representations of, you know, just like we have Joe Biden as a president. These people are the leaders of religion. Their whole purpose is to keep up the facade of their version of the telling of the story. This is why I see no difference between Jews, Muslims, and Christians, or Catholics. We're all building off the same source material. The only difference that has occurred throughout these four things is history, is people manipulating the timeline, the history, or who said what or who did what, in order to maintain some position of power, in order to maintain this like hegemony of like tradition. And if you look into a bit further past Christianity or past the Jews, you get into Zoroastrianism. So it's all up in the air for what is what, but you know, we like to play that game of facades and actors and players and all this other stuff. Oh yeah. This video was actually pretty good.
What's the worst thing about Democrats?
That they're really judgmental to anyone who isn't a Democrat.
They all think they can get along, but they do no effort to do so.
How incompetent they are at campaigning and messaging.
The fact that foreign policy sometimes requires stepping on toes.
They're all hypocrites.
Yikes. Look, no offense to any Democrat watching this. This is where we are at now. After 3 years of extreme rhetoric against one side of the aisle, come on, let's be honest. But Fox News, yeah, Fox News, my booty, because like Bryan Singer is an investor in a notorious and apparently racist NYC gay bar, Motel 23. Bryan is friends with Michael J. Cohen, owner of the Motel 23. Cohen is a former Hollywood talent manager and is also accused of drugging and raping young men. Does this sound familiar? Here we go, Michael J. Cohen. Okay, no. That's not it. This guy. Is Bryan Singer the biggest predator in Hollywood? Right, pictured next to Kevin Spacey. Very interesting. And by the way, who likes little boys? I can't remember. Who are the people that prey on little boys the most? It's like skipping my mind right now. Like, retired FBI agent explains to Drew Hernandez how Biden and the DOJ target conservatives. It's not just conservatives. It's the fact that if you have different opinions, you're a target. It doesn't matter if you believe in right or left paradigms. In reality is, if you start seeing past the veil, if you start seeing past this little game that's being played, you become a problem. It doesn't matter what ideology you like or that you promote. Because the way I see it is, when 9/11 happened, when the Patriot Act happened, and then when it was rewritten, all politics moved to the right. So as people like to say that, oh no, politics moved to the left, it's like no. We're moving to a dictatorship, a right-wing dictatorship. We're not really moving towards some left-wing paradigm anything. Politics has always been towards the right of things. And I don't know, somebody brought that up to me very recently, where it was just like, nah, it's not that they move to the extremist left. It's just that they can't move to the side they really want to, because they played up all this other bullshit culturally, that they have to maintain that rhetoric. But the way that they're acting and the way that they're making decisions is completely akin to a right-wing dictatorship. Either way, Black Lives Matter leader accused of stealing $10 million from the organization. Shlomoya Bowers is called a rogue administrator, a middleman turned usurper. Basically the fall guy. 30th of September 2022 is the last day you can spend £20 and £10 paper notes. People are talking about, my wife just sent me this. She saw it posted in the grocery store today. Yeah, talking about digital money, moving towards a digital payment system, all this other stuff. The Great Reset, da-da-da-da-da. But it is funny how it says the Bank of England, because if you know the schizo XRP conspiracy theory, it starts in London. Either way, sorry for all that. Here we have, this was good.
So in our third year of business, I just left the office, and I got home and I got a phone call from the office saying there was a lady there that had a badge and a gun. I asked what she wanted, and they said, I don't know, but she left a letter. So I went into the office to grab this letter, and it was a tax bill saying we were late on, I think, about $3,000 in taxes. So the next day, freaked out. I spend an hour, 2 hours calling, trying to find who I'm supposed to talk to, figure out who knows what this tax bill's for. Finally, they tell me we're a new business. We must have purchased furniture. So they're estimating what the taxes are on furniture, because they didn't see us pay.
You're a new business. That means you bought furniture. That means you didn't pay taxes on furniture that we have no reason to tax you on.
Taxes for furniture. I told them we bought like $500 worth of furniture on Craigslist, and we're still using that same furniture. They said they didn't believe me, and they needed to see all of our receipts for everything to show that we didn't buy furniture. So I just paid the $3,000. It was easier than paying a CPA to go through everything. 87,000 new IRS tax agents are going to really crush small business.
They do not want, right? They do not want the average person, the average citizen, to have anything at all. No capital, no resource, no means of making money at all. So I always have to remind like wingnuts, it's like if you shop at Walmart, I shop at Walmart. So you're just as much of a slave as I am, which is why I tend to call white people the worst N-words possible. Dude, I always love the looks that white people give me when I call them that. What trips me out is the bald dude. Like he never. It's like, look at who he's dealing with. You got 3 of them. Oh no, but this will only ever happen to minorities. It's like, no. We're the excuse.
Oh, Father God.
This lady starts praying because this dude looks like he's ready. But it all goes to show, minorities are just the excuse. In reality, any normal citizen, middle-class American, even if you have a nice administrative job at any of these corporations, you're still a target. In reality, you're expendable. They don't really actually care about you. The moment you decide to turn your back on any of this is the moment that the cop will start looking at you like this white cop is looking at this lady inside of this car. Just thought I should, remind people of that. Bill aimed at disclosing docs for COVID misinformation approved by California legislator. So that's right. You dirty doctors who are spreading misinformation here in California, you're about to get the law knocking down on your door for being a bad person. And by the way, that's actually the thing that I got slapped with on my YouTube channel was like misinformation. Just hilarious, right? You got to use the new rule against me? Nice. The Amish never vote, but guess who is now showing up at the Trump rallies? Oh, dude, this is hilarious. I love that. It's like you force their hand. These people did not want, like, right? They've spent hundreds of years not giving a flying fuck about any of this, and now they have to give a fuck. Like, what the fuck? Breaking news: Chilean voters have just rejected the new transcendental socialist constitution by almost a 2-to-1 margin. The rechazo, which means rejection, had 61.8 votes, while the approval was only 38%. Damn, dog. Socialism fails again. Hilarious stuff, though. What's this?
Joe Biden or Kamal? Who would you rather have?
Shit. I don't know. That's like, which arm do you want me to cut off? I'd vote for you before either one of them. Joe Biden, that's the battle cry.
Yo, that's the battle cry, son. Yeah, I don't even want to show this. Did Trump really say this? I don't really care. I wanted to bring up this better. An electric digger with 0 emissions digs for 2 hours, then takes a huge generator a whole 8 hours just to recharge. This is the type of nonsense the foolish green energy great reset nonsense is apparently trying to save the earth from. How do you get 2 hours worth of work time, then you gotta plug it up for 8 hours just to get another 2 hours? You see how the return on investment doesn't work out entirely well? Right? Because then these generators are running on gasoline. Hilarious. But it all goes down to scarcity. Creating, I think this is what you would constitute as, I bit my tongue, being the new form of scarcity. Former Tata Son chair Cyrus Mistry passes away in a road accident. More important people just disappearing, apparently. The president forwarded to the cabinet of ministers a petition on the legalization of corn and erotica in Ukraine. Wait, it just dawned on me. Corn is corn illegal in Ukraine? I say corn because you can't use that word on YouTube. Weird, right? The legalization of corn and erotica in the Ukraine. Yeah, Ukraine. Show them people how to bop them bussies. British troops joined training drills with the Swedish and the Finnish forces. Very interesting. 20 quid for a pint, right? There was an article that I saw prior to this where the price of carbon dioxide tripled. And because of that, certain food prices were going to go up, which is why I shared this, because I just wondered what food uses carbon dioxide, but beer is one of them. Europe energy crisis was created by political interventionism. I don't want to go into that. That's a long idea. A Jackson, Mississippi resident posted this photo of what their tap water in the area currently looks like. But money for Ukraine, right? Yeah, we need more money for Ukraine, obviously. Bro, what the This is the sort of thing you only see in movies. And then FEMA director says it is still too early to say when Jackson, Mississippi residents will have clean running water. Either way. Here we have the Minister of Public Security, Juan Manuel Pino. Panama is exporting 41 tons. Panama is exporting 41 tons of cocaine to the United States for its destruction under the control of the DEA. Now, what I also found interesting was what he said here.
Bajo todos los procesos que manda, se puede decir, nuestras regulaciones nacionales, la droga va a ser custodiada por una unidad de la DIJ y un fiscal de droga de Panamá. Panamá decomisa alrededor de 12 toneladas.
Panama seized around 12 tons of drugs monthly. Like what?
Mensualmente de droga. Estamos trasladando 42.1 toneladas de droga, pero todavía nos queda droga. Toda la semana hay confiscaciones y la estrategia de droga que llevamos nosotros es muy...
That's a lot of cocaine coming in and out. But the reason why I think it's very interesting that it's the Panama director saying this is because for those who don't know, the Pandora Papers and the Panama Papers are two of the largest leaks, quote unquote, that show that they've been using Panama as this really weird laundering country where it doesn't just launder money, it launders practically everything. So I found it very weird. So let's talk about catering.
Let's talk about the catering in the Houses of Parliament. I don't know if you know this, but MPs and House of Lord members have access within Parliament to 23 different points of sale where they can buy food and drink. That includes 9 restaurants and 8 bars. All of that is heavily subsidised by the British public, so we pay towards the cost of that food and drink. Don't forget, MPs are on nearly 85 grand a year and they've had an 11% pay rise this year. So these are wealthy people stuffing their gullets on the public pound. The food there is so cheap that collectively, in a year, MPs and staff threw away nearly 150,000 kilos of food, whilst people in the country are starting to skip meals and starve.
And this is just one example, because I don't think we have this here in the States, where congressmen or people of government have their own specific like shops that they go to for reasons of national security, obviously. But to see this, especially after the UK, right, when Boris Johnson resigned, it wasn't just him that resigned, it was everybody that resigned. And I think just today they announced their new, they just announced their new, what do they call the new PM? The new Prime Minister in UK, some woman, I think her name was Trust or something like that.
The last 3 years, they've thrown away what equates to 2.6 million meals, which if they'd cost on average £8 each, would be £20.8 million in thrown away food. What world are these people living in to be throwing away our money like that? Where's the scandal and the outrage? We should be pissed about this.
And here in the States, I brought it up with that pig feed video where somebody was saying that all of these food manufacturing companies are actually just sending all of this old processed food garbage. They'll send it to a place, they'll make it into pellets, and then they'll feed these pellets to the farm animals. And it's just like, we can't just give this food to actual people who could use it, right? No, but here in the States, it's like, oh no, even local restaurants, local businesses, you can't give food to the homeless. You have to throw it away. And it's just such a waste of food.
2020 to 2021.
And then we look at the situation that we're in
their
now.
Food and drink to the tune of £9.1 million. Just so you know, that's up nearly £5 million on the previous year. So they're getting more expensive. No sign of them tied in their belt. Do you want to know how much they sold in food during the time we gave them £9.1 million? About £830,000. You know what that means? That means the remaining £8,270,000 went completely on drink. On drink. No wonder they fight so hard to win and keep their seats. Who wouldn't want to work somewhere like that? The whole place needs reform. Follow for more.
And I think that's my last thing that I have. So this was another episode of Matrix News. My name is Ramirez, and hopefully everybody has a great day. Or a great week, right? Because today's Monday.